mysterious mummy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all-new year of the Hometown Haunts podcast. I'm your host, Cat Loco, and along with me on this endeavor into the endless mysteries from around the world are my friends, Christina Wald and Jen Ford.
Hey!
Hello!
Yeah! Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year!
Yay!
It's been rocky already.
Only a weekend.
Yeah, it was a long vacation or a long holiday. How did you spend your holidays?
I was at my sister's. My brother surprised us and came home from Utah, so we got to see him.
Oh, yeah, because we got to meet him.
Christina got to meet him. He came to a party because he didn't really tell us he was coming home.
Oh.
So it was a nice little surprise because we haven't seen him in a while.
Okay.
I was surprised because you walked up and you were like, this is my brother. And it's like, wow.
Well, yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see him, you know, and if you're not going to tell me you're coming, I'm not dropping my plans.
True.
Nope. And I wanted to see everybody at the party. So there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. New Year's, my friend Christine came over and we went out and had fun. And then I've been in my pajamas ever since.
Well, that sounds lovely.
Because I haven't left the house.
We had a very nice Christmas and New Year's.
That's good.
I mean, Troy's parents have moved a lot closer, so we didn't have to drive very far to go visit them. And then we sort of had a gaming New Year's. We played board games all New Year's Eve, and it was really fun. I won the first one, which was even funner, but I was falling asleep during the second one.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
No,
a nice break, and I've been trying to finish a book cover, which I did get finished, uploaded a couple of days ago, and I'm trying to finish another book. So I've been working pretty intently.
Good.
Yeah. That's good. Well, let's see. We had a very quiet, low-key holiday season where we just stayed here and basically explored the area, went to some new restaurants, went to a lot of zoos, saw a lot of animals, and then I dyed my hair pink. So
we can barely tell because you're white.
Red, yeah.
But it is a dark pink. So
I like it. It's very pretty.
Thank you.
It is pretty.
I like it a lot. I look like a strawberry now.
Yeah.
It's
my
just
roots are showing. That's why.
Yeah. No.
I think you should dye it green. You should dye it green for Frogman.
Jen or me?
Both would be good, but you should dye your hair green for. I know that's hard to do, actually.
That one's hard. My hair used to be green.
I remember it looked very nice when it was green.
When I first met you, I think it was green.
Yep. Well, I had it green twice. I had it green in 2016 and 17. It was a shamrock, almost light green. That was my favorite color on me. And then again for the Cabinet of Curiosities issue 2, I dyed it a enchanted forest green, which was darker.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's, I think, when you remember it. And right now it is dark cherry red or pink.
Oh, I like
it's
it.
More pink. Yeah. And it's just a temporary dye on top of my copper hair. So
okay.
Yeah. So it will eventually wash out and I'll have that orange ginger again.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not as damaging. I didn't bleach everything. It's just I just plopped color on top of color. And they harmonized and they made this color. But
and it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful for now. It will look like crap later. But
I go next month to get my hair done, and it's just going to be my normal orangey reddish. And the gray makes it look extremely red.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Yeah, there's gray strands in my hair now too, and I can definitely see them because they're like, "Hi, I am fuchsia." So it's just like, okay, I have more of those now than I thought. I found a gray eyebrow earlier,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's where I find most gray is in my eyebrows. I don't have that much gray in my hair yet.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But
I have
my
found
eyebrows.
grays in other places that I'm not going to mention.
Your
It's part of
ears.
being a crone.
Just one. No gray in my eyebrow though. My one little whisker there is like silver gray, sometimes black. I love being 45.
Oh, just wait. Wait for the fun.
All the
And then I
joy.
have a shit ton of gray hair on my head. Thanks, Dad, for giving me that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what my natural hair color is anymore. I've been dyeing it for so long. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and when I
don't
see
know.
it against the red, it just makes my natural color look like crap. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to that.
Mhm.
I don't care. I'll be 80 and I'll be the 80-year-old woman with the bright red hair.
Well, I'll
There's
have
nothing
pink.
wrong with that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
If I make it that long.
I love it when I see older women that have dyed their hair like lavender.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Or
yeah.
pink or
Yeah.
red
Or
or
pink.
I've seen them
Yeah.
blue.
One of my mom's friends used to have a short pixie cut, and she would just dye it different colors, like
Oh,
as
That's
she
fun.
really
wanted.
cool.
So that
Yeah.
was fun. She was
You gotta
75,
own
and
it.
she'd walk in with like Mountain Dew green hair, and it was
That's
great.
awesome.
It was like that's how you punk. That's how
Yeah.
you punk when you're in your 70s. But
You just have to not care.
yeah. So in a few weeks, in like 6 weeks or so, we
Mhm.
have Frogman Festival. That is March 2nd. And I have booked my plane ticket. I will be
Woohoo!
back haunting you all in Cincinnati for Loveland Frogman Festival.
Oh.
And I have fun news. So Corpse Hour Press, which is the company that I run, that publishes comics, is debuting an all-new comic book in time for Frogman Festival. It is called Frogman Funnies, and it is written and put together by Tim Fuller. So
Oh,
I was an
yay.
editor on it, but it is to the printers now. It got
Woohoo!
approved. It will be here by the end of
Fantastic.
January.
I
Excellent.
just saw him post on Facebook that he got accepted today.
Yes.
And he had the cover of that.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
cover for Frogman
Okay.
Funnies. And it is I love it a lot. It's a great it's just like his sham comic books. So what he did is he took Golden Age comics, which have gone into public domain,
Mhm.
and riffed them a la Mystery Science Theater. And he has 2 Frogman stories, 2 Mothman stories, and then a variety of other strange creatures that he dug up from comic book history.
Oh, fun.
It is so good. There were many times when I was reading through, because I edited the book, but I would find myself laughing at the jokes that he wrote in place of the original copy. So it was great. We hope to make more, and yeah, so it will be for sale at Frogman Fest starting March 2nd. So
Right
that's when
on.
it debuts to the world.
Woohoo!
Yay.
So
Excellent.
yay! Yes.
How fun.
Yes. Oh yeah. All right. So, I think do we have any other news right now?
I don't think so.
Okay. Frogman Fest it is. That will be fun.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's in Loveland, Ohio, and it's at
Same place?
frogmanfestival.org. Not the
Okay.
same place. It's not at Great Wolf
Wolf.
Lodge.
Okay.
They've moved it. Give me a second and I can look it up.
Hopefully a bigger place, maybe?
Hopefully. I love their new poster.
Yeah. They had the poster last year. They had it. You could pick it up if you were
I
like,
know. I bought Oliver did it.
yeah.
I didn't get a
Oliver
copy of it.
Meinerding did it, and it was very
Yeah.
nice.
It's so good. It's such a good example of what the Frogman looks like. And yes, it's holding the magic wand because it's the OG 1955 Frogman.
Which my coloring sheet also, which I'll have those at the Frogman Festival. He's
Oh,
holding
good.
a wand.
Yeah. I always make it look like a breadstick whenever I illustrate the Frogman. But anyway, Frogman
The
Festival, you can
breadstick's probably more realistic.
it's more tasty.
True.
You can find it at frogmanfestival.org. More information. It's going to be at the Oasis Conference Center, and you can purchase tickets right now. So, yay!
Where is the Oasis Conference Center? Where
I
did you
have no idea.
Okay.
Sorry. that was not somewhere I went to when I was ever up in Loveland. I was always staring at the bridge, looking at the river, like being downtown, trying not to die crossing the street, stuff like that. I don't know where the Oasis Center is.
I've heard of it. I can't. For some reason, I'm thinking Fairfield, but I don't know if that's right.
Well, you said it's in Loveland, so it must be somewhere in Loveland.
Yeah.
Well, doors open at 9:30, and there are 50 unique vendors. One
Wow.
of them selling
Christina, do you
art,
have a
crafts, and
table?
merchandise.
I do not, but I
Okay.
was going to give some coloring sheets that you can give away for free.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
I'll just print them out like half sheets,
Okay, that
and
sounds good.
kids can have them.
Kat, I still have. I never got the books to Tim
That's all right.
because I'm lazy. So
Well, I'll
sorry.
be back.
I will just keep them for Frogman. Is that okay?
That's fine. Okay. Yeah. All right. So on to the show. Rest of the show. Further down the show. It's been a while.
Well, now we're at the meat of the show.
We're at the meat of the show.
A
Thank you,
moose
Christina.
bouche and the appetizer, and now we are going for
We're
the
at the entree.
main course.
Yes. And it's a furry one, everyone. This is so I wanted to start this year off with a real fun cryptid story. And while I was cleaning out my studio, I found from a different cryptid group that I had met many, many years ago, they had compiled just stories about different cryptids from Ohio. And this was one of the stories. And I was just like, yes, this is perfect. So this is the Werewolf of Defiance, Ohio. Have you ever heard about this case? No.
No.
Okay. So sources for tonight's show is the Ohio Folklore Podcast, Astonishing Legends blog, Fox 19 in Cleveland, Nick Redfern's panel at the first annual Dogman Conference, the Toledo Blade, and Crescent News. And also the information packet that I just forgot the name of. I'll have to take a photo and post it for everyone from our friends in Pittsburgh Paranormal. So, okay. The Loveland Frogman wasn't the only cryptid pestering Ohioans in 1972. For a full 3 months that summer, the small town of Defiance, Ohio, was terrorized by a creature with woolly hair covering his entire body. At the time, it was referred to as the Thing or the Creature, but now we know of it as the Defiance Werewolf. In the early morning of July 25th, 1972, railroad worker Ted Davis noticed something odd. He was working for the Norfolk and Western train lines, also known as the N and W, as a crewman. That night, Davis was connecting an air hose between two cars, and in an interview with the Toledo Blade, he describes what he witnessed. I saw these huge, hairy feet, then looked up and he was standing there with that big stick over his shoulder, he said. He had no time to react before the creature beamed him in the head with a 2x4 piece of lumber before running into the dark bushes beside the rails. That is quite an entrance. Also to note, July 25th of that year was the night of a full moon. The next encounter happened at the rail yard a few days later, involving Ted Davis and his colleague Tom Jones. Both men were working in the early hours of the 30th, inspecting railcar braking systems, when they witnessed the creature prowling along the rail lines between the bushes. It was startled and then ran away. In an interview with the Toledo Blade, Davis and Jones described the creature as being approximately 6 feet tall, with huge hairy feet and fangs, and ran side to side like a caveman in the movies. It was also added that the creature was wearing blue jeans. At first, I thought the whole thing was a big joke, but when I saw how hairy and woolly it was, that was enough for me, says Jones. The men also pointed out that all the crewmen were accounted for that night, so it was not a coworker pulling a stunt. At the end of the interview, the men remember hearing screams in the distance after the creature took off. They agreed that the creature could hurt somebody and that it was in their best interest to report the creature to the police. So that's what they did. The Defiance police agreed to investigate the incidents. Chief Donald Breckler said to the news media, "We don't know what to think. We didn't release it to the news media when we got the first report about a week ago, but now we're taking it seriously. We're concerned about the safety of our people." Chief Breckler goes on to say, "Very hairy is the first description by each person who saw the werewolf." He went on to mention that he believes that the werewolf may be a local who was wearing a mask and had a lot of natural hair. I'm sorry. I'm just the cartoony image of in my head of this werewolf is spectacular. After Chief Breckler made his statement, a third encounter with a werewolf was reported. The incident happened the same night, July 30th, as Davis and Jones's encounter. A grocery clerk was driving home through Defiance at 4 a.m. after his shift, and the clerk witnessed an impossibly large dog-like creature run in front of him. In some accounts that I read further, it said that this creature was wearing blue jeans and carrying a 2x4. So it's a story. After the incident was reported to police, werewolf panic hit high gear in Defiance. The local newspapers, the Toledo Blade and Defiance Crescent News, ran stories for weeks about the different sightings reported to them. However, I will note, I could not find news clippings of all these different reported instances. I only found about 3 articles over and over again being reposted. I looked through my beautiful newspapers.com. I searched for hours trying to find any clippings from any other just around Ohio or nothing. The Toledo Blade doesn't seem to have been put into or digitized yet, and the Crescent definitely wasn't. So this was the best I could do. I do my best to find localized when it happened accounts, and could not. It was interesting. I couldn't find extra encounters except for hearsay on the internet, but I did find what the critics had to say about this werewolf. Yes, Yeti. If you hear a werewolf Wookiee sound, that is my dog Yeti. He's here with me tonight. There were critics, of course. Skeptics believed it was a pranksters running around the town in a werewolf suits and masks. Townsfolk also questioned the motive behind the incidents. It wasn't robbery, and the werewolf never approached women, which was really interesting. All the appearances of the werewolf were also within a 2-block radius around the N&W depot, causing the residents to make sure their houses were locked up at night. So at least there's that. If I see him, their werewolf, the police are going to find who he is. That's because they'll have to take him to the hospital to get the buckshot out, said Elder Rupert Figg, a local interviewed by the Crescent News. Another resident said, "It doesn't worry me. I've got kids and I let them play out day and night," said another resident. As the summer slid into autumn, the stories fell away. After a heightened summer of panic, stories of werewolves subsided and life went back to normal for Defiance. Dogmen and werewolves have been reported around Ohio since then, but this was the last hurrah for the Defiance wolf, or werewolf. And that is my story.
Wonder why I went after men.
I think it's a guy who worked at the railroad and he just
didn't like him,
pranking everybody.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
I think that's what it was.
It's kind of like the people that dress up as clowns and stand on the edge of woods and just stare at people.
Yeah.
Now.
I think so. The only account, and it's the same article that I took the "I want to shoot buckshot at him" quote. It was another parent basically saying the only people scared of this werewolf are my own children. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds like definitely it left an impression on those who were kids at the time, and that's why we're still getting the story to this day circulated, because those kids are now adults and they have their own kids and maybe grandkids by now, and they're all just retelling the story of the time there was a werewolf loose in my hometown.
Yeah,
so
blue jeans
in mine.
In blue jeans. I love it. And
well, at least he's fashionable.
Yeah, carrying a 2x4.
The only thing between me and
did he have mutton chops?
It was 72, so probably.
Sorry, I don't know why I found that funny.
Actually, there was a lot of people, in the early 70s that kind of did look like werewolves. So
They
it's
did.
probably just like it's probably
My
just
dad
some
was
guy.
one of them.
It's probably just some guy that had a beard and was hairy.
My
Yeah.
dad actually did not have a beard then. I don't know
Wow.
when he kept it, but he did have the sideburns. He did have
Yeah.
the sideburns, but later in life, he definitely was a Grizzly Adams guy.
Yeah.
Character.
Yeah. My father-in-law
the
had a
70s.
beard. My dad, who did work for the railroad up in Cleveland,
Oh,
he had the mutton chops,
Mhm.
and then for a while he was clean shaven, and then he had the mutton chops with the mustache.
nice.
That wasn't the best look on him.
I was just thinking about how, I don't know if anyone's been watching the Hercule Poirot latest movies and the way he makes the mustache like three-layered,
God, I hate that thing. Some people, there's a fine line between really cool facial hair, and then just gross facial hair.
Porn stashes?
I like the term porn stash.
I don't like it. Some of them, and I think it depends on the person too. Sometimes it works for
It really
guys
does
and it
depend on
doesn't.
the person.
Huh?
It really does depend on the person.
Yeah.
I'm laughing so hard the dogs are coming to my aid.
Aw.
Because,
Mommy, don't laugh so much.
yeah, there's
Oh.
Dewey.
Dewey!
Yeah. It's oh man. The entire time when I was reading these accounts, I was just thinking my dad in that werewolf, like the sideburns phase. And then he had a robe that was fake fur from the 70s. So he would like a smoking jacket. So when it was cold out, he would put this on and look like a bear. And then he had fuzzy slippers that were brown. And I was just thinking of him running around with like a 2x4 or a stick, whacking his friends on the railroad. And this was the entire image I had. And I now believe I have to draw this for our show.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
He definitely needs to make an appearance at the Cryptid at Loveland Frog Show. Show. Loveland whatever show.
Yeah, if you're making more prints.
Thank you.
Yes, there's a lot of dogmen sightings, but we'll probably talk to people who have seen dogmen or look for them.
That's the place to find them for sure.
Yes, so, but yeah, that's my story, and
excellent.
You can do it.
For our listeners, if you have a dogman story, please send it our way.
Yes, please.
hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com.
I was going to say I would encourage people at the Frogman Festival to come up and tell us their ghost stories and cryptid stories and UFO stories.
Oh yes. Yes. So, okay, Jen.
Well, just side note, I want to live in Defiance. I mean, like, how did they get that name? Defiance, Ohio. What were they defined?
Oh, Fort Defiance.
Yeah.
Is there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fort Defiance is there, and then Defiance is just outside the fort. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
I don't know history.
There's a lot of surprise forts. There's even a few around Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Fort Thomas. That's in
okay.
Fort Thomas.
I'm going to sound really stupid. Those were really forts.
Fort Hamilton.
Those were really forts.
Yes.
Well, there was more.
In early 1800s.
Oh.
Revolutionary. There was, of course, civil.
Yeah.
But revolution. I mean, because I don't know if we're all related to them, but I know I'm related to some of the people that I'm related to were Hessians that they fought in the Revolutionary War and got land in Ohio as payment.
Oh.
Your family?
That's interesting.
Of course, there were already people that had the land, but apparently they didn't really worry about that.
No.
It was just a minor detail.
Yes.
Oh, that's oh man. I mean, I guess how do you pay your generals and your fighters and stuff? I don't know.
Get land in Ohio
land in Ohio.
Did belong to other people, but they didn't really pay attention.
Oh no. It doesn't
matter.
Yeah. Well, I just showed my stupidity. I don't know much about Ohio history.
Well,
even though I've lived here for a long time. Anywho, we didn't talk about Ohio and Missouri where I was growing up. Okay.
That's true.
Eugene the Mummy. In the
Good
late
segue.
Yes. In the late 1920s, a middle-aged man traveled to a small town in Ohio looking for work. Instead, he died in a ditch on the side of a road, apparently of natural causes, and became a macabre town mascot. In Sabina, Ohio, aka the Eden of Ohio, the man was seen walking just outside of the small town, then found dead a few days later. The only information he carried with him was a slip of paper in his pocket and $1.40. In 2023 money, that is $24.30. I tried to look up 2024, but the calculator I used didn't go there yet.
Yeah.
Too early in the year.
So he could buy a can of soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the slip of paper was an address. 1118 Yale Avenue in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati police were notified, went to the address, and found nothing but a vacant lot, which according to Google Maps is still a vacant lot as of 2022. At a dead end, no pun intended, after speaking to a neighbor named Eugene, the unidentified man in Sabina was thus named Eugene. The Littleton Funeral Home in Sabina adopted Eugene in a sense, embalmed him, dressed him in a suit, and laid him to rest on a couch in a shed behind the funeral home, on display for anyone who cared to pay Eugene a visit. For the next 35 years, Eugene spent his afterlife reclining on that couch, with the exception of a trip to Ohio State University, where he partied with the students. Halloween was also a fun time for Eugene. He would pay his neighbors a visit by taking a rest on their front porches. Initially, Eugene was put in the shed in hopes of someone identifying him, but after approximately 1.5 million visitors over the years, no one ever claimed him. In 1964, he was finally and permanently laid to rest in the Sabina Cemetery. His tombstone reads, Eugene found dead in 1928, actually 1929, but buried in 1964. And that is the story of Eugene the Mummy. And I forgot to name my sources again. So they were Only in Your State, recordherald.com, and friend of the podcast, the Skeleton Key Chronicles, and weirdus.com, which I thought was James, but it wasn't James. Well,
No,
it's different.
that's Mark and Mark.
Yes.
Who do Weird US. But they talk to James. James knows them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The font was the same. So when I just saw the font, I'm like, oh, that must be James. But it wasn't.
Yes.
But their site looks like a lot of fun.
Can you hear my werewolves fighting in the background?
A little bit, not much.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, these microphones are pretty good about not getting a lot of ambient noise.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Well, I thought Eugene was
cool. I can't believe Eugene was put on a couch in a shed.
This is really like Weekend at Bernie's.
Very.
I mean,
I wonder if that's where they got the idea.
I don't know. I mean, it's like abuse of a corpse for however many years. I mean, it's
why would you go and take him to a party at OU? Why?
Do you know how many tombstones ended up in Indiana University's pools back in the day from Step Cemetery?
I mean, I can believe
it's just the
kids,
college kids, drunk college kids.
Yeah.
And the shenanigans they get into. They'll say, hey, have you heard about Eugene the Mummy? Let's go see if he's up for a party tonight. He's lucky he didn't lose any fingers or his arm.
He did, actually. After he did lose some fingers. Yeah. But that's just because he was decaying, you know. Yeah. I don't know, like, who was putting them on the porches, though? Like, were the people just breaking in and just moving them from porch to porch?
Probably. I don't know. That's a good one to look a little bit further into, but I don't know if anything would be written about him besides what we
there wasn't much. And everything I read was pretty much, it was basically saying all the same things. And like, I saw a little clip of an article that had some differing information, but I don't think it's important, really.
So no one ever was looking for someone? Like, they never were able to...
Well, I will say
he was a black man.
So that might have had something to do with it. Maybe he didn't have any family to look for him, or I don't know. I mean, it was hard to track people down back then.
Well, it seems like, I mean, even today you have people that disappear and are never seen again, you know.
Very
Perhaps.
true. This week I've been watching a show on ID Discovery, and I'm sorry, Investigation Discovery. Yeah. It's a show called Disappeared, and it's all about people that have disappeared. And it's crazy how people can disappear.
Oh yeah, it's some people want to disappear and some don't mean to and disappear too efficiently.
Some families have falling outs. People leave and they don't keep
in contact. And every single case, they go, like, the family knows something's wrong. It's not right, but they're forced to wait 24 to 72 hours sometimes.
That's a lie now.
Is it?
Somebody goes missing, reported immediately.
They're not doing that. They're not. Well, okay, I will say the season I'm on was a few years ago. So, but so far, it was like, I'm like, no, do not make them wait. They're dead already. You know, and the line that cops always give, they're an adult. They have every reason and every right to disappear if they want to. And that's true. It's just.
That's not what the cops said when I reported my mother missing on Thanksgiving. They immediately did a silver alert and looked for her car.
I think it depends on the situation.
Okay.
And like, if I went missing, they would, unless I had specifically acted in a way that I intended to take my life, or something that was so erratic that you could tell I was in immediate danger. And most of the time you can't, because you don't know. You just don't know. They're just not there, you know. And it's, unfortunately, a lot of them are found deceased, but they're found within a few years. The ones that go decades without being found, I don't think they'll ever be found. And it's very disturbing.
The thing that's interesting is now, if Eugene, I don't know if they can extract DNA anymore from Eugene. He may be embalmed for too long and buried for too long to be able to extract. But if there's still bone matter or like teeth that they can take it from, they could do a genetic profile on him and potentially find distant relatives.
Yeah.
It's just like what Paul Holes in the Golden State Killer, that entire situation, but we're dealing with a person who was found, but their family is unknown. It's kind of it's kind of the reverse and similar in the same way. We're still trying to find distant relatives so we can at least assign a name. The boy in the box that was from Pennsylvania was just discovered that way. They finally found his name and the situation that he was from.
Wow.
He died. This is one of many boys in boxes. But this one is one I think that came from like the mid 60s. It was a 5-year-old boy who was found at a railroad depot in a box, deceased. And the town buried him, and he was just known as the boy in the box. And they did a DNA profile on him, and it was released last year. Of what his name was, and that he was the missing child of a family who never reported him missing. They were, I don't remember the situation with the family, but they did not.
Someone in the family do something?
That is a good question, but now he has a name. So
that's good.
Yeah, they could do something similar with Eugene. It's just finding the funding for that now is the question.
Man,
there's so many people now.
Well, since he's so popular, I could see that. Like every once in a while, you see there's something recently. UC they looked at something. There was some recently, like something they X-rayed something, and I can't remember the details. So this was a very uninteresting story. But occasionally you'll hear about
behind it though is just chef's kiss.
What's the audio?
Dogs fighting over a Yeti stuffed animal. And this makes for great radio, everyone. And
this is great, actually.
It makes farting noises. So
It does. I wish I had been saying something more interesting.
But I think you're right, Christina. The University of Cincinnati Anthropology Department did do scans and
It was like
DNA profiling.
wasn't it a mer person? It was like half fish, half person. Like
Oh,
it was like from
yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it like from one of those
Oh,
museums?
there was
and it
DNA profiling done on some of the Mexican alien mummies. That was done last year.
It was something like that where it was something. I think it was something stitched together, and it had been at one of those museums.
Yeah.
And
The Fiji mermaid.
Yeah, and they confirmed it was fake. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for the people that waited so long to be confirmed that it was
fake. But it's still fun to think.
Well,
it's
there
real.
are unfortunately. On the similar note to Eugene, there are people's shrunken heads that are on display that were real and that need to be repatriated to the nations that they were a part of, the different parts of the world. And then there's also a lot of fake ones, because that sounds like a fun trinket to sell at the side of a road. Why?
I wonder how many are on it.
Even if they were fake, they were actually made out of monkeys.
When I think of a shrunken head, I always think of Beetlejuice.
They had some at this exhibit at the Museum Center a few years ago. We got to go sketch them, and I think these were all on permission. Although, these were on permission. But there are a lot of, like, they just recently repatriated the remains in New Zealand of some guy in Austria stole a bunch of. We've talked about it on the show before. Some guy stole a bunch of skulls and dug them up of Maori people and put them in a museum in Austria. And he even wrote in his journals, if they knew I was doing this, they would kill me. And then the Maori people were like, we want our relatives' skulls back. And Austria Museum would not give them back. They said, oh, well, they're on display here. We're not giving them back. And then finally they got a new young curator and she had them returned.
Good.
I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like a lot of the things that's happening with the Mutter Museum is how to display bodies appropriately. Do they have permission? Do they not have permission? Should these be returned? There's a lot of questions. But
and how did they get them in the first place?
And then how did they get them?
A lot of it's very unscrupulous.
Yes, a lot of it. We've covered that in a body snatching episode previously.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good.
There used to be a place in I think it was Bradenton, Florida. It was called the Sea Hag, and it was this really cool shop that had all these weird oddity things. And the guy that was running it had human skulls, and he showed me and Christine a picture of his shelf, and it's just like, how do you get those? And he's like, well, he's kind of cagey about it, but there is a market for that. You're not supposed to be able to buy.
No. And
maybe I shouldn't have said that publicly. It's not there anymore. The shop's closed down, and I don't remember his name, but he was kind of a cool guy.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect you're not the only person he told.
Probably not. No.
Yeah. It's even with the taxidermy and pinned beetles or insects market, there are really cagey ways that some suppliers get their specimens. So, like, I love skulls, but finding ethical ways that they were collected is very hard, because a lot of times the ethical ways to collect them, like I have a bunch of cicadas and butterflies, I collected them right after they died.
Right.
So, of natural causes, usually on my patio.
Right. You're not like suffocating them in
I'm not,
block.
Yeah. But because of that, they are not exactly the most beautiful examples, but they don't need to be, because I know what they looked like when they were alive.
Right.
And I just have them with me here to kind of fawn over in a weird macabre way.
I don't like real dead things.
Did you shellac them? Do you put something over them?
How do you keep
I mummify them. So you do that by putting them on top of your fridge.
So because it's dry?
Sorry?
Because it's dry?
It's very dry. So with the type of refrigerator I have, it pumps all the hot air that it's releasing into the back, and that comes back up and on the top. So when this works for insects, it's not going to work for heftier things. But
Don't go killing your spouse's people.
I was thinking of like hamsters, cats, small dogs. Like that's not
Or
going to
your
work too
pet
well.
bird. Sorry.
Yeah. But small insects that have light bodies, this works. But you just dry them out, and by making them a mummy, they are preserved for longer. They will eventually fall apart, as we all do. But that by becoming a mummy, there's less bacteria to be eaten, or
so
there's
you don't
less
decompose as
fluids
fast.
for the bacteria to be eating. So yeah, they stay together a little bit longer.
Could you use a food dehydrator?
I guess
Probably.
you could. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know why not. You're just dehydrating organic material.
What is it? Is it a food dehydrator that? Oh no, it's freeze dried. That will puff up the food and make it real crunchy. Like if you put a gummy in a freeze dryer, it'll.
I do not know. Our listeners, if you know, please write in.
I know we're all over the place.
You're into mummifying things, and
Yeah,
I have a lot of friends that
about a
collect
mummy.
skulls.
Like he was embalmed, and then he sat out in a couch, or at least
In a
laid out
shed
for 40 years.
next to a window.
That just feels so disrespectful, and they probably thought it was funny.
does. Like looking at photos of him, you could see Eugene's teeth have curled, or his lips have curled around his teeth. They really did truly mummify him, if they meant to or not, because
They did.
Yeah, they did.
Well, they
they
embalmed
them first,
Yeah.
and then just leaving him out in the sun. It's not
Well, they
exactly
left him
dry.
out initially so people could come and visit and hopefully identify him.
Yes,
But then for whatever reason, they just left him out there for 35 years.
macabre interest, and then maybe because he was black. I don't know the makeup of Sabina, so
No, I don't either.
so
But
I can't. But
yeah, no
yeah,
one
they
would
did
want
mummify
their.
him.
Well, yeah, and I think if he had a name and they knew where it came from, they wouldn't have done it.
No,
But he just kind of appeared one day and then died, and they're like, "Well, what do we do?"
Yeah,
And like today, even like they have paupers' graves still
Mhm.
for unidentified or unclaimed people,
Mhm.
and those are mass graves. I just saw an article that they did a burial in LA, and it's
Yep.
just like,
They do
can
that
you
every
just
year.
each give them a little sliver of their own? Don't put them all in there together. But
Yeah,
I guess that's too
I have
costly.
some
And
bad news about the French catacombs. Yeah, but in a similar vein, at the same time as Eugene, there was the man who was used as a Halloween prop that they found in a haunted house attraction.
yes,
And his name is escaping me, but it's the same time era. So this is very much that we did the history of roller coasters and amusement parks. This fits into that same time era where people were doing localized interest stuff.
yeah.
The Halloween haunted houses, this would have been a local interest thing.
Was he a murder victim though?
The one that was found in the haunted house attraction, I don't remember off the top of my head.
They just didn't realize he was real until
They
later.
did not. He was
Right.
mummified so well that he fooled everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they use real skeletons in movies,
yeah. Like
which they're like, what's the easiest way to get a natural looking skeleton? Get a
Poltergeist.
natural looking skeleton. Not
Poltergeist
sure how they
is
got
one.
them, but the
Yeah.
one apparently
Medical schools probably.
the ones in Poltergeist in the swimming pool, those are
Mhm.
real. I did not realize
Wow.
that until
And then
recently.
rumor has it that in the original Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, that they used real skulls and bones at the beginning when it opened in the 60s, but it has since been changed out, except for the skull that's on the bed's headboard.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's just rumor. I don't know.
I want to know how okay, I understand wanting the realism.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they get them probably from medical places, right?
Yeah, I would think.
or like
I mean,
a medical school or something,
Yeah.
because they use real skeletons, but someone has to consent to give their body to that, right?
Yes. And also, when you do consent to use your body for science, those can get sold, as we saw with the case of the woman who was sold to, was it the US Navy, and then exploded, and her son learned about this
Mhm.
um, a little bit later. There was that case. So just because you donate your body to science doesn't mean it gets intended used the way you thought.
No,
So
not
this
at
is
all.
different than organ donation, though. I will
Yeah,
note.
yeah.
But
Well, I do. If we want to get grislier, there's a
grizzly
story.
content warning, everyone. We've
Yes.
just been talking about mummies for the past 17 minutes.
Well, I've always
It
kind of been fascinated by death and what happens to you after, because I want to know. I need to know.
gets gooey.
Well, yes, but I like the process, like what happens when you die? How do you get to the funeral home, and how do you, like the whole process? So,
Depends on who you're with. I've been
right, and
present for this process before.
and what your last wishes are if you have those written down.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a funeral home. I can't remember where the name of it was years ago. They were selling off bodies
Mm-hmm.
illegally.
the funeral home was.
The funeral home was. They were telling the families that they were being cremated, and then they would sell off the bodies. And this, for whatever, stuck with me. This woman had to look through a medical catalog and found her father's head. Just his head.
Wow.
Yes, I remember this case.
Yeah. And I was just like,
How did she know it was her father's head? Or did she just
Because
it
they had
was
a
a
photo of
picture
it.
of
'Cause
his
they're-
decapitated head.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because they, for medical conferences and stuff, when they're trying out new techniques or whatever, there's a catalog apparently
Mm-hmm.
that you purchase the parts from so you can learn the technique.
Mm-hmm. You need to practice somewhere, and we
Yeah.
haven't changed medicine that much since the 1800s.
Mm-mm. But you need to get those legally and not lie to the mourning families and then give them fake ashes
Mm-hmm.
in an iPhone box. And I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, if you don't know, a full human body cremated does not fit in an iPhone box.
Mm-mm.
It's
It's
more like
heavy.
a shoebox. Okay? Because I remember my dad's ashes were about the size of a shoebox.
Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be perfect dust either. They're still going to have bone fragments in it.
I also saw my dad's bones.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty
Because
cool.
I couldn't help myself. I had to open it.
I did the same
And then
thing
I was
with my
like,
dad.
you did that with your dad too?
Mm-hmm. I was like, I had to look. I was like, so I opened the bag. I'm like, look, it's part of dad. Like,
I
so
wasn't that excited. I was just like,
now I've just horrified
shit.
my entire extended family. Like, any of them have listened to an episode of this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you're about to find out.
yeah. Well, also when he was on display for his memorial service, because he requested to be embalmed first and then cremated, because he just had to have the whole expensive shebang.
Of course, yes.
I could not. He had already prepaid for this package, so there was no way I could fix that. But he was laid out, and I remember studying how he was embalmed. And one of my cousins came over and is like, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And I turned to them and said, "They did a very good job on his makeup." And my cousin just looked at me really horrified. Like,
actually, that is a
why
common
is this what you're
statement.
appreciating about?
That's a common statement people make.
Yeah, but it's.
I don't know if I've ever seen
someone
someone do a good job on it. I mean, I always think it looks ghastly.
Well, this one, the help of the pink lights that were next to him really pulled a lot of mileage, but they did a good job. This is going to be also for the squeamish. Go la 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 for about 20 seconds. They stuffed his face really well, so his face cavity was much more much more alive, because he died of cancer and he looked really sullen.
Yeah.
So
my grandparents looked good. I had a friend years ago. She was in her 20s that died in a car accident, and she just looked like she was sleeping.
Oh.
And yeah, every funeral I've been to that I've seen the body, they have always looked natural to me.
Mhm. They've done a lot better with
Yeah.
cosmetology.
Yeah. You know, my mom wasn't even at her own funeral. We forgot to bring her ashes.
What?
Totally forgot.
Oops.
We had a picture of her though.
She was there in spirit, literally.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Christine was there and she said, Mom popped her head in for a minute, rolled her eyes, and left. Which is totally my mother, because she told us. She didn't tell us, and all she told us is she wanted to be buried and then put her someplace pretty.
Mhm.
And right now she's still in my sister's cabinet.
I
Is
hope
it
it's very pretty. No.
Not pretty.
Not pretty. Okay,
Good for
well, you
It's a
know.
dark,
there.
it's a dark cabinet.
Mm.
Although I do have a little urn on my shelf, so she can keep an eye on me, I guess. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's oh my goodness, that's funny. Yeah, it's
Death is fun.
yeah, we say very sarcastically. It's
That's
I will say definitely have your not just a last will and testament, but your desires for what you want done after you've died, because your family has a very hard time making those decisions because
Right.
there's a lot of gears in motion from
Yeah.
multiple angles, from like very pushy, there could be very pushy funeral home salesmen, not all of them.
Yep.
It depends on who you're using. I remember when my we knew that my dad was going to be cremated, but I remember going to the funeral home where he was being taken care of, and they were trying to upsell my mom on a casket that had carved fish on the sides for him to be buried in. And
Mhm.
she was almost sold until I reminded her that he was being cremated and would
Oh.
not be in need of a casket.
Yeah.
And oh boy, was that funeral salesman
pissed at
mad at
you.
me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but this is the point. What are we going to do with this? I'm not
Yeah.
using it. My mom's not using it.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
just
not
gonna
totally
be
in it.
burned.
Those
You
things
can't
are
reuse them.
Hmm?
Yeah, sorry. You can't reuse them.
No, you can't reuse them. So it's so there's that. So make sure this is just a PSA for for the living. Make your last desires known to your family. Write it down. Put it somewhere where they'll find it.
It's
Don't hide it
called
in a cookbook and then put that
when
cookbook away.
my grandma's was when it was in her freezer, and my mom and her aunts couldn't remember where they put it, where she put it. But yeah, it's called an when I die folder. It's got to have all, like, especially for me being single. It's got. I really need to do one because all my passwords in there.
That's an important thing. Yeah, getting all the
banking
stuff so you can
information
find everything.
Figuring that out for my parents was a terrible, terrible detective mystery that took 3 years.
I've heard that happens to a lot of people that I've known.
It does. And it's worse when it's for bills and you can't pay them. Nowadays, a lot of bills have guest payment way. So as long as you have the account number and everything, you can go in and pay it without having the account login.
Yeah.
But that's new. But also for everyone, make sure that if you have pets, include them in your will, your living will, so you know where they're going to go. What is the sanctuary that's in Utah is a good one to send them to if you have no family that can take care of them. It's a large multi-acre pet shelter.
Aww.
And yeah, it's
I don't want to think about that.
all my dogs are accounted for, and there's even money set aside for their care.
Nice.
So,
That's smart.
yeah, it's just remember about your pets, especially if you have long living tortoises or types of birds.
Or 20-year-old cats. Who knows when when Betsy's gonna go shit.
Yeah.
She's still chugging along. Also, if I die folder or if I disappear folder that has identifying marks, so you can be easily identified in case you need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah. Scars,
that's our public service announcement today.
Birthmarks. Have I done any of this? No. But after watching this disappeared show for the past couple days, it's just like,
wow.
Yeah.
You know, because so many times they're like, oh, we found this this body, it could be this person, and then it's not. And then the family just has to keep going over that over and over and over. And I just can't. I can't.
Wow.
Well, on that cheery note, if you're still with us,
We have a hometown haunt.
we have a hometown haunt.
Sorry, I'm morbid.
Jen, we are the queens of morbid.
I know.
Well, this is a show called Hometown Haunt.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? And people need to know these things. I know people don't like to think about it, but just educate yourself.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
it can make your life easier. That's all I'm saying.
It makes it easier for your family too.
Yeah.
So, Christina, you have a hometown haunt to share.
Yeah, and this one is actually one that we collected a long time ago, but we have not read it yet. So I was excited to find this one. So this is from Nicole. And it says, as a very young child, I was always afraid of sleeping by myself. I needed night lights or lamps, and sometimes I would need my mom or dad to fall asleep on the side of my bed so I would feel safe enough to fall asleep myself. I lived in a very big house, so at night there were plenty of dark nooks and crannies that my mind went with. So how much trouble I had sleeping that my mom and dad would quietly crack open my bedroom door and peek around the corner into my bedroom to see if I was asleep. My eyesight was terrible, and still is. But it was always a relief to see their blurry silhouette watching over me. If I caught them in the dim lamplight, I would call their name and the response would be a hush, don't worry, we were just checking in. Go back to sleep, it's okay. And then that would be the end of it. I was maybe 7 or 8, and I was having trouble sleeping one night. My nightlight was on, and it was silent through the house. I held my stuffed seal tight and eventually went back to sleep, only to wake up again at some point late at night. When I opened my eyes, I saw my mom's thin silhouette leaning past the corner, peering at me. Mama, I had called, but she didn't respond, which I found strange. I couldn't see or read her face from the comfort of my bed. Mama, I called again, confused. I blinked, and she was gone. The next morning, while she was making breakfast, I asked her, did you check on me last night? Yes, I wanted to make sure you were asleep, was what I was expecting to get, but my mom shook her head and wrinkled her brow. No, I was asleep all night. Are you sure? I saw you poke your head in my room. No, I didn't get out of bed at all. It happened twice more. Once again, my mother, and once my father, where I called out to them, I got no response. I blinked and they disappeared. For whatever reason, despite being terrified that there were a vampire under the flight of stairs or a raptor in the basement, these encounters never bothered me. I shrugged them off and went back to sleep, figuring my parents were just acting weird. It wasn't until I grew up and was in college that I learned that what I had witnessed was not my parents, but perhaps a doppelganger of them. I know I hadn't been dreaming. My dreams were never so mundane as a kid. I still think about these encounters from time to time. So what do you think about that, Kat?
As you were reading it, I was like, sounds like somebody has a doppelganger. and then she mentions it at the very end.
2 doppelgangers.
Two. Well,
she saw her both parents.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was checking up on her.
yeah, thank you first, Nicole, for submitting this story. It's wonderful and delightfully spooky. I love it. And a doppelganger could have pretended to be both the parents. So it's not necessarily 2 different ones. It could be one spoofing the parents at 2 different times.
For what purpose, though?
So I will say, from all the accounts of doppelgangers I've collected, and remember, I've seen one too. So this is coming from personal experience as well. People who have seen doppelgangers have never actually been hurt by one. So they seem to just mimic people that they see frequently. And when I talk to the different docents and people who volunteer for the Mansfield Reformatory up in Mansfield, Ohio, doppelgangers are something that they see frequently and have been witnessed frequently by guests who go. And they actually have a very positive way of interpreting what's happening, which is the spirits love the docents and the people who visit frequently so much that their only way to really express, I love you, or thanks for what you're doing, is to pretend to be them to help other people. So
I don't believe that.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I've never gotten an account where a doppelganger did something bad. Shocking, yes, but they've never done anything bad. And this is quite lovely. This is a spirit who is checking in on this kid, on Nicole as a child, and doesn't want to scare them. So they're
I'm sure
pretending to be a
it didn't want to
parent.
suck her life force out while she was sleeping.
I am sure that is not happening because
Okay.
Nicole, for what I know,
still here.
is still alive on this earth, and we don't need a Ouija board to
Maybe
contact
she's a changeling. She's
a changeling,
changeling.
a chicken wing.
Change
Chicken wing.
a changeling. The Fae took her
Isn't a
and
changeling
replaced her.
a changeling? Isn't that a fae thing? That's like a fairy thing.
Yes.
The fairies take
Okay.
you off into the woods and replace you. With
I mean,
what,
this
an
is
evil version of you.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, it could be, you know, could it be maybe even a relative that could have been too?
It could have been.
Because the idea that she wasn't scared when she saw it, you know, and didn't freak out, could have been meant it was just a relative too.
mhm, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's also very possible. Yeah, it could have been like you said, a relative that if you don't have your glasses on, they look really similar. They're not going to answer the way that you normally expect. It could have been just a family member popping in too. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Now, if I saw someone peeking at me through my bedroom door, I would freak the F out.
yes, I
Well,
see
that's
this.
why it was appearing as her mom and dad.
Yes, and I think this is a big show of affection and love. I don't think it was meant to be ever scary. So
Well, the idea that she was always having trouble sleeping, perhaps it was
Mhm.
somebody helping her parents out.
mhm. Yeah, trying to
Are they
comfort.
kind of like children just playing? Like, because like the one at the Marietta place we went to, they said they had one that would just kind of mess with the people. Do you
Yeah,
remember that
the
story?
doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to mess with people. And they kind of remind me a lot of the jinn, where they're a spirit or an entity that likes to just mess with people because it can. And
That will probably be me when I die.
yes, so yeah, you're just going to turn into a doppelganger, Jen. You'll just pretend to be everyone. and
Okay,
pull
then
everyone's things.
I'll be fine with that, and I'm going to scare the shit out of people.
There we go. Now we know what's happening in the afterlife with you. So
You want to harass her. No, it was a good story.
yeah, that was a very good story. So, all right. So for more fun stories like tonight, you can find us on Spotify and iTunes. Please take a moment to rate and review us so that the algorithm will connect us to other spooky lovers just like yourself. Also, if you have ghost stories, urban legends, UFOs, cryptid stories from your neck of the woods, please share them at hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com, just like Nicole did, and we will read them on the air. And Jen will promise to become whatever's haunted you in the afterlife. So you can also follow us at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram and our Facebook group Hometown Haunts. So for myself, Christina, and Jen, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yay. Bye.
Bye-bye.